This is Marco Battaglia checking in for a Give Freedom a Chance chat. Today I want to talk about something that, as far as I can tell, Iowa governors have not touched on in years. Certainly since before my time. That is sound money. Working towards sound money, to me, means getting Iowans on the front lines of the battle to move away from financial tyranny. But first, let's talk about some recent events. At the behest of our president, CIA Director Mike Pompeo met with William Binney. William Binney is a former intelligence official who argues that the DNC data loss was a leak from within. If this is proven true, does this mean that our president, Trump, does not have questionable ties to oligarchs of the world? No, he does, and so do many of our politicians. This is part of the problem with this trend of electing plutocrats, people that can gain access to power due to immense wealth. It's not just happening in D.C., it is happening in our states. This is the trend among gubernatorial races. This is a big part of why I got in the ring for consideration. The current system makes it really hard to opt out, and the wealthier one gets, the harder it becomes not to be connected with the dark side of our current national and global systems. I have my doubts that many people that were enriched off the current system and crony capitalism, cronyism, that these are going to be the ones to help us change it. You think the swamp is only in Washington, D.C.? No, I think the worst swamps are in the states, in the counties, in local government. This is where change that you can see can happen rather quickly. For example, Governor Kim Reynolds said just this week that she asked an ethics board to review whether two of her supporters, who are Iowa government officials, violated any laws by working on as agents of Saudi Arabia. Essentially the governor's comments come amid scrutiny. It's Kim and Connie Schmidt, a husband and wife who hold important state appointments, and they recently hosted a Reynolds campaign fundraiser. Reynolds said she wants to see the findings of a review by the Ethics and Campaign Disclosure Board before deciding whether to take additional steps, such as calling for their resignations or returning donations the couple gave or raised for her campaign. In my opinion, this is a very weak response. I know that the governor knew about this because I sent her campaign this information before this story even really broke. She could have turned them down. She could have returned the donations immediately. She could call for their resignations at any time. I believe the reason we do not see more of this, or why impeachment even does not happen more often, is because plutocrats invest so much money in these officials and politicians. They will fight tooth and nail to keep their investment working for them. You see this in D.C. with tons of offshore money flowing in to make both Trump or Clinton look Trump and Clinton, either one. You can trace to offshore funds to make either one of them believable enough to secure the electoral and popular votes, respectively. You see this here in Iowa. Lots of out-of-state money comes Reynolds' way. And on the other side, you even have a plutocrat in the race, millionaire Fred Hubble. Are Democrats sure that they want to run a former insurance CIO or CEO in this climate? I don't get it myself. Hubble is a millionaire in part because of working for a company that is so big and has a vast history, which will tie to my sound money platform, if you bear with me. Henry Baldwin Hyde. He was a American businessman. He's notable for having founded the Equitable Life Insurance Society of the United States. By the time of his death, Equitable was the largest life insurance company in the world. Now, here's where history kind of all comes crashing together. The Calliope crashes to the ground, to quote the boss there. Hyde was a founding member of the Jekyll Island Club. Some people called this the Millionaires Club. Jekyll Island is located off the coast of U.S. state of Georgia in Glynn County. It is one of the Sea Islands and one of the Golden Isles of the Georgia Barrier Islands. The island is owned by the state of Georgia and run by a self-sustaining, self-governing body. At the end of November 1910, Senator Nelson W. Aldrich and Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Treasury Department A. Piatt Andrew and 5 of the country's leading financiers, Frank Vanderlip, Henry P. Davidson, Benjamin Strong, and Paul Warburg, arrived at the Jekyll Island Club to discuss monetary policy and the banking system. They effectively created the Federal Reserve during this meeting, and according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, the 1910 Jekyll Island meeting resulted in draft legislation for the creation of a U.S. central bank. Parts of this draft, the Aldrich Plan, were incorporated in the 1913 Federal Reserve Act. So prior to the Civil War, the USA had thousands and thousands of different types of currency. After the Civil War, we were well on our way to one type of currency, the Federal Reserve Note. The idea was sold originally largely on that this one currency would help people pay for the wars that they were dying in. Fast forward to the 1900s, and you have a group of plutocrats meeting privately on Jekyll Island to hatch this plan to give our nation central banking. And here was birthed the creature from Jekyll Island, the Federal Reserve. And, you know, this is the system, whether you are left or right, whether you're, democratic socialist or just don't want to be labeled and you're against the system, if you will. I mean, this is the system. It's looking you, the creature is looking you in the eye. And I have a plan for being on the forefront to returning to sound money, and this will affect every single one of us. There's things that we can do. The Arizona House has removed a gold and silver inflationary tax. Meanwhile, Utah and Oklahoma have declared gold and silver legal tender in their state, free from any taxation. A choice in currency, you might argue about, against the gold standard or against a specific school of economics, but a choice in currency really means a choice. No one is going to be compelled to accept or tender gold and silver coins, just as they cannot be compelled to use paper notes. Think about retailers who refuse to accept certain denominations of cash altogether. I want to ensure that a citizen of Iowa will be able to deposit commodities, gold or silver, and pay other people through electronic means or checks in sound money. We need to treat gold and silver specie as money. We can start by repealing state sales taxes on precious metals. And, it's really just giving economic freedom a chance. It's not going to force any new ideas upon anyone. It's just giving people that want to opt out the freedom to do so. And thanks for bearing with me for another Give Freedom a Chance chat. Got a big couple weeks of events coming up, and I'll make sure those are updated ASAP. Have a good week.